me or Dave? Okay. But I can hear you. Yes. If we could turn on the camera at least while we're speaking so that the audience has pictures of us. I'm just going to leave mine on. I'm going to be facing this way most of the evening on my other computer.
I'm in. I'm at a family Burns dinner, so I'm just snuck off to a bedroom to
Okay.
take the meeting. Anyhow, let me know when you would like to hear from me, please.
Right. They'll call you up by
Okay.
the address.
Okay. If I'm on here, I'm gonna find out, right?
You are on the agenda for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I believe you are the third or fourth item down though. So if you keep
No, I
listening, you'll hear
understand. I
the
missed
address.
that. So, my apologies, right?
No problem.
You're going to put me in the spot? Yeah. To do what?
Everything okay? We're still missing a few staff members as well as a few applicants?
Not a very nice night.
True.
I have a call in. Can you identify yourself, please?
It's Lori. For 23
Lori Atkinson.
Avenue.
Yeah.
Did we lose Mark Gosselin again?
Yes, I believe we did.
And we don't have Kendall or Brent yet, eh?
Oh.
Violet, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mark.
Oh, great. Thanks, Darren.
I see we have Brent. We're still short a quorum.
Yeah, I'm here.
And is Brenda in attendance in the council chambers?
Yes, she is.
Thank you. I just sent an email off to 2 applicants for 31 Old Neck Road and 184 Hampton Road.
For some reason, Violet, I cannot sign into the agenda and all that stuff, so I won't be seeing it. But anyway, so
You can go on to our website. We can do the voting verbally like we did the last meeting when there was some connection issues. But if you want to go to our website, just quispamsis.ca.
okay,
Under,
I'll do that. I'll do that on my laptop. So
yes, so then you can read along on the agenda.
okay, so
And you probably have it in your email too. I did email the agenda.
I cannot
Might be
get
quicker.
some reason.
Mark, if you can also go to eScribe on your laptop and log in that way.
I tried. I tried it every way possible, I guess, and for some reason, I'm not sure why, but it just doesn't work for me today. So if I go to
Yeah, just quispamsis.ca. And then you'll see meetings. Oops, get somebody just logged in?
Yes, Chad Long did.
Okay, hi Chad.
okay, and
Hi there.
go to meetings, right?
I think right at the top there, you might see council and PAC. I don't have it right up myself. And then it'll link you to the agenda.
Mark, if you go to quispamsis.escribemeetings.com,
Okay, let me try that.
Sure. As long as he has at least the agenda.
quispamsis.escribemeetings.com.
Okay. Okay, our gentleman for 184 Hampton just realized there's a time difference and he's just logging in now. We could get the meeting starting if you're ready.
Yeah.
31.
Everyone ready? I know Mark's trying to catch up, but I think we'll get everything underway
We've
here.
got a couple of things that we can get rolling there while the last two folks are signing in.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of the town of Quispamsis for Tuesday, January 20th. Move on to item 2, approval of agenda. Can I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Brent, have a seconder on that? Brenda?
I second that.
Any adjustments to the agenda? None being, well, can we vote on that?
I'm not connected. That's why I'm doing it that way.
Yep. Motion carried by a vote of 5-0. Move on to item 2, disclosures of interest. None being, we'll move on to item 4, approval of previous minutes. Is there any adjustments to the minutes? None being, can I have a motion to approve previous minutes, please? Brenda?
So moved.
Can I have a seconder on that?
I'll second it. It's Kendall.
Thank you, Kendall. Can we have vote please?
Aye.
Motion carried by a vote of 5-0. We'll move on to item 5, business arising from previous minutes. Can I have a motion to receive and file, please?
So moved. It's Brent.
Can I have a seconder on that, please?
Second it, Kendall.
Thank you, Kendall. Can we have a vote, please?
Aye, Mark.
Motion carried by a vote of 5-0. We'll move on to item 6, unfinished business, none being. We'll move on to item 7, new business. Item 7A, 31 Neck Road. Old Neck Road, sorry. Can you release the applicant? But is Dwight online tonight?
Dwight is, I believe, signed on as planning officer, and Chad is available there on the phone.
Okay, so Dwight's on. Dwight, can you introduce that item, or if not, we'll have Jennifer?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the request is for PAC is looking for a couple of items. The staff report covers 2 different applications, if you will. The first one is dealing with the lot width variance for the subdivision lot itself. It requires a 6-meter lot width variance because the proposed lot width is 48 meters, but the minimum lot width under the zoning bylaw is 54. So required a side yard setback because it's in a rural zone. having more than 4,000 square meters. The idea is to offset the building, so it's 30 meters from one side for future subdivision. Foundation elevation variance in approximately about 5.3 meters based on the information that's submitted. The finished floor elevation will be below the center line of the road. And finally, a waterfront development. So, standard conditions apply. There are no concerns. In terms of lot width variance, the lot itself is in excess of 2 acres over 8,000 square meters. So even though there's a lot width, there's sufficient area to support the proposed residential development. In terms of the side yard setback, 30 meters, again, as indicated in my staff report, this is aimed more towards areas where there's potential for future municipal sewage service. The old Neck Road area, as I've indicated, it's very unlikely that we would see municipal service out in that particular area. And the foundation elevation variance is ensuring that the applicant or property owner enters into a whole harmless agreement, just recognizing the responsibility to maintain the driveway when it's sit below the roadway, as well as ensuring that any drainage is directed away from the actual structure. Waterfront development, again, it's standard condition in the zoning bylaw that PAC review and set reasonable terms and conditions. And the standard condition that's normally looked at is ensuring the Department of Environment has been contacted and engaged to ensure if there's any conditions applicable to this particular application that are undertaken by the applicant. Other than that, there's no concerns, and I'm open to any questions, following questions to the applicant from PAC.
Thanks, Dwight. Could the applicant please state their name for the record, please?
Yes, Chad Long.
Chad Long or Wong? Long?
Yeah.
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 Mr. Long, you would have received the same package we did in the mail. Is there anything that you would like to add or discuss prior to members of the PAC or public asking you some questions?
No, I'm okay.
All right. Does any members of PAC have any questions for the applicant? None being, is there anyone online willing to speak for or against this item? Is there anyone online willing to speak for or against this item? Third and final time, is there anyone online willing to speak for or against this item? None being, would a member of PAC like to put a motion for or against with terms and conditions, please?
I'll put a motion forward.
Go ahead, Kendall.
That's okay.
Yeah, please proceed, Kendall.
Just let me know if you can't hear me clearly.
I can hear you now.
I recommend the planning advisory committees approve the tentative subdivision plan and proposed residential development of lot 22-1 subject to the following terms and conditions. Number 1, granting a 6-meter lot width variance for lot 22-1. Number 2, granting a variance from the 30-meter side yard setback requirement as per zoning bylaw 038, section 25, E3. Number 3, the property owner of lot 22 shall submit to the Provincial Department of Environment a copy of the proposed residential development and obtain any necessary.
We're losing you, Kendall.
Submission insights.
Kendall, you're cutting out.
Yeah, Kendall, can you repeat item 3, please? 3, 4, and 5.
Kendall, if you're cutting out, if you'd like, I could read these for you.
Is everything clear?
You're clear at points and then you're cutting out.
Of lot 20. Can you hear me, Violet?
No, you're breaking up. If you wish, I'll just read the conditions 3 onwards. knowing that you made the motion, we'll have your name recorded as the person who made the motion. Number 3, the property owner of lot 22-1 submits to Provincial Department of Environment a copy of the proposed residential development and obtain any necessary permits prior to commencing any work associated with the proposed residential construction and the issuance of a building permit. The submission of a copy of the approval for on-site sewage disposal system to the town prior to the issuance of a permit, and the property owner of lot 22-1 enters into a standard home harmless agreement with the town regarding residential developments situated below the roadway and the responsibility of the property owner to maintain unobstructed and reasonable access to the property for emergency services.
Does that work for you, Kendall? Those 5 items? Kendall?
It does, sorry. I'll move closer to my Wi-Fi.
Okay, perfect. Can I have a seconder on that, please? Brenda?
Second,
Brenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there any debate on the motion? None being, can we have a vote, please?
aye, Mark.
Kendall, I'm not seeing your vote online. Could you just vote verbally for me, please?
Kendall, we can't see your vote. Are you in favor? Well, Kendall put the motion ahead anyway, so. Motion carried by a vote of 5-0. Mr. Long, in 5 to 7 business days, you'll have a letter in the mail with your approval. Please work with the town to get all necessary paperwork and the province all in place, and the best of luck.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Have a nice night.
We'll move on to item 7B. Applicant seeking approval for a garden suite as a secondary dwelling unit proposed for 23 Autumn Avenue. Jennifer, can you introduce the item, please, for the applicant? We can't hear you, Jennifer.
I'm the applicant, but my name's not Jennifer.
No, we want Jennifer, one of the officials of the town, is going to introduce the item.
Okay.
Thank you. Dwight, since we can't hear Jennifer, is that something you want?
Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep,
Yes.
we can.
Can anybody hear me?
Oh, you're not hearing us, but we are hearing you.
Can't hear you, Jennifer.
Okay. So your
Dwight, do you want
microphone
to
is
take over
okay,
and introduce the item, Dwight? Can you do that, or? Officials of the town's going to introduce the item.
Can you hear me now?
Thank
Yes, we
Can you
can.
hear me?
Yeah.
No? Oh, no.
Dwight, since we can't hear Jennifer, is that something you want?
Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can.
Okay.
Oh,
Anybody hear me?
You're not hearing us, but we are hearing you.
Okay.
Can't hear you, Jennifer.
I'm just gonna keep talking and hopefully at some point we'll catch up.
Dwight, you want to take over and introduce the item, Dwight? Can you do that, or? Officials of the town's going to introduce the item.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Can you
can.
hear me?
Yeah.
No? Oh, no.
Dwight, since we can't hear Jennifer, is that something you want?
Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right.
We can.
Okay. Anybody hear me?
You're not hearing us, but we are hearing you.
Okay.
Can't hear you, Jennifer.
I'm just gonna keep talking and hopefully at some point we'll catch up.
Dwight, you want to take over and introduce the item, Dwight? Can you do that, or? Officials of the town's going to introduce the item.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Yeah. No.
We seem to have a recording going on.
Yeah.
at the
So
same time.
Dwight, is that something you can talk about this one, Dwight, for us?
How do I do
Just
that
bear with me a
now?
sec.
Yeah.
No. Switch audio.
Sorry about that, folks. There's been a technical difficulty. Let us get that cleared up.
Jennifer was listening on YouTube. That's why we were having the feedback. She's having hard times with the hearing of the meeting. I think we'll just let her listen in, and Dwight can take over, if that's okay. If not, I can read some of the minutes of the meeting memo.
Violet, I can read it if we want to. Dwight, you want to read that, or?
So there's an application before PAC to entertain the adding of a secondary garden suite at 23 Autumn Avenue. So this is something that's been introduced in the municipal plan. So the municipal plan aims to provide additional housing options for residents. So as PAC is aware, the zoning bylaw doesn't have specific terms, conditions, requirements around this particular item as of yet. It's being brought forward and being drafted. However, PAC has entertained on a couple of occasions a similar request. So with these requests, things that are to be taken consideration is that the property owner has to reside on the property, whether it's in the secondary dwelling unit or if it's in the main dwelling. They have to be connected to municipal services, and it's providing adequate buffering, and not the actual size of the building be less than the main dwelling. So the aim in the municipal plan is to have a building that's to be around 30 to 40% the ground floor area. My knowledge, notice was sent to residents in the area, and there were no concerns. There's an existing garage on the property. The applicant is proposing to remove the garage and to make way for the proposed garden suite. This is keeping it in line with the municipal plan. And so again, the main things are ensuring that the secondary dwelling unit is connected to, and the primary the unit would be connected to town water, because there is town water in the area. And this obviously would, again, keep in line with the requirements in terms of lot size. There would be adequate lot size once they're connected to the municipal water system. If there's any questions following PAC's discussion with the applicant, I will open to responding accordingly.
Thank you, Dwight. Could the applicant please state their name for the record, please? Lori Atkinson, you would have received the same package we did in the mail. Is there anything you'd like to add or discuss prior to members of PAC or the public asking you some questions?
No.
All right. Does anyone from PAC have any questions for the applicant? Brenda?
Just a quick one. Did you even consider maintaining your garage also and just moving it somewhere else, or was it not like viable for that
No,
purpose?
because where we want to put it is right where the garage is existing now.
Okay.
It's right, like, the garage isn't attached to the house. Like, I didn't know whether you have to attach it or you could have it detached, but right where we want to put it is right where the garage is now. And
okay.
So rather than, I can't move the garage. Like, I don't have that capability. I can tear it down. If I could turn it into it, but I don't think we can do that. I think the only feasible thing is actually tearing down the existing garage and putting it, right where that was, kind of like moving it back a bit, but basically in the same place.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions for the applicant from PAC? None being, is there anyone online willing to speak for or against this item? Is there anyone online willing to speak for or against this item? Third and final time, is there anyone online willing to speak for or against this item? None being, would a member of PAC like to put a motion for or against with terms and conditions, please?
Mr. Chairman, it's Brent. I'll make a motion.
Please proceed, Brent.
Make the motion that the Planning Advisory Committee approve the application for a garden suite to be located at 23 Autumn Avenue, PID 002-53500, as a similar or compatible use similar to an in-law suite in the main dwelling, and approval of a 15.2 square meter variance to section 8D1 to allow the garden suite minimum gross floor area of 59.8, so 59.8 square meters, subject to the following terms and conditions. 1, the main dwelling unit must connect directly to the water main in accordance with the provisions in the Water Utility Bylaw, Section 4.a, and all costs associated with the connection are the responsibility of the property owner. Connection of the main building to the town's potable water system must be completed prior to the issuance of a building permit for the proposed garden suite. 2, a water utility permit is issued prior to the connection of the main dwelling unit to municipal water services as per Water Utility Bylaw number 024. 3, municipal potable water services will be provided to the garden suite directly from the main dwelling unit. The connection must be completed by a plumbing professional license with the province of New Brunswick prior to the occupancy of the garden suite. 4, the second dwelling unit must be connected to the municipal sewer system as part of the building permit process, and all costs associated with the connection are the responsibility of the property owner. The second dwelling unit, once connected to the municipal sewer system, will receive a second sewer account billing as per the town's sewage bylaw 005. Current buffering of the garden suite must be maintained at all times to protect adjacent properties. The building containing the garden suite must be constructed to the National Building Code of Canada, current edition. The exterior finish of the garden suite is to be clad and recognized by the National Building Code of Canada, current adopted edition. 8, a demolition permit must be issued by the town for the removal of the accessory structure to make way for the siting of the garden suite. 9, a building permit must be issued prior to any work being commenced. 10, the property owner must reside on the property within one of the dwelling units being their primary place of residency. 11, if the property is transferred to a different owner, the same PAC conditions apply to the garden suite and the property unless amended by the Planning Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Brent. Can I have a seconder on that?
Second, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Is there any debate on the motion? None being, we'll take a vote, please.
Hi, Mark.
Motion carried by a vote of 5-0. Mr. Atkinson, in 5 to 7 days, you'll have a letter in the mail with your approval. Please ensure you have all necessary paperwork submitted to the town and permits in place prior to the construction as indicated in your letter. And congratulations, best of luck.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, we'll move on to item 7C, an application for a takeout restaurant at Unit 109, 184 Hampton Road, PID 002499797. Jennifer, do you want to try her again? Can she hear us?
I just realized the applicant
No.
wasn't attached to, Mr. Chairman, and he's been
Pardon?
emailing me back and forth this evening, and I just gave him a phone number to try calling in. He's having
Oh,
difficulty.
the applicant's not online?
He's having difficulty connecting. I just emailed him a phone number. He asked us to call him, but we don't have a phone set up for that. So hopefully he'll try one of those phone numbers. he wants.
Okay, let's, can we defer that item to at the end then? Unless the applicant's online. Is that okay with PAC members if we bring 7D ahead and move this to 7D?
Fine with me.
Thank you. Everyone else okay with that? Brent?
Brent, yes.
Kendall? You okay with that?
Yes, I'm okay.
Darren?
Yep, I'm good with that.
Brenda? Okay, thank you. We'll move that ahead. So now we'll move on to item 7D. 335 Hampton Road. Oops, I gotta get my thing up here. Hang on. Dwight, you want to introduce the item?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
it's Jennifer, and I think I can hear everybody, and I have a phone.
Well, there you go.
So
Okay, Jennifer,
I think
can you?
that we can rock and roll.
All right, can you introduce that item, Jennifer? Item
I will.
7D,
I
335.
Thank you so very much, and thank you, Dwight, for stepping in for me. So tonight, looking at 355 Hampton Road, we are actually looking at two separate items with this file. The first one is regarding the Section 59 Development Agreement Amendment. And Council has asked PAC to provide comments, the written comments, within 30 days of January 12th regarding the proposed change to the development agreement. The second item is the actual review of the request for the variances to permit the accessory structure to be developed where it is. So two variances that we're looking at. One is to Section 12F1A, which states that the maximum height for an accessory building is 5 meters, where in this case, the proposed structure is 5.18, 5 meters and 18 centimeters. So we need a variance for 18 centimeters for the height. And the other variance that we're requiring is to the buffer zone, the PID 302206444, which is the smaller of the two PIDs that make up the overall parcel, has been identified as a buffer zone, and there is an encroachment of the accessory building and the cement pad up to 6 meters. The southernmost corner of the accessory structure is encroaching into the buffer zone, so we would need a variance to that as well. So the first item is the Section 59 Development Agreement Amendment. There are 2 paragraphs that will need to be amended. The first amendment would allow for storage of elevators and all parts, whereas the original development agreement only permitted small elevator parts such as switches and relays. And the other section that will need to be amended, if so approved, would be the number of staff that is on site. They're asking for an increase from 1 position to 6 for the administrative positions, and they're asking to increase to 4 repair persons to be allowed on site. So as part of the original development agreement, as I suggested earlier, there is a diagram that identifies the smaller PID as being a buffer zone. If the amendment is allowed to proceed, then this diagram would also require to be amended because it does state on it that there's no development permitted in that zone. Item 2, the 2 variances are required to permit the development of the building. And we've been through that. Through our research, though, we did find that smaller PID 302206444, which has been identified as a buffer zone, has also in historical documents shown up as a reserve lane. So we had legal look at it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get a response back, but more research is going to be needed into that to understand if that reservation is still existing on that land or if it has been removed. So that will need to be teased out during all of this, and I would recommend that we take care of it and finish it off so there's no loose ends hanging over from that and further. So that's what's before the PAC now, is to make those decisions, and now I will turn it over to you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Could the applicant please state their name for the record, please?
Yeah, hello. I'm David McKenzie. I own Ascension Elevators, and am I allowed to talk now, or do you?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to, what I was going to say, you would have received the same package we did in the mail. Is there anything you'd like to add or discuss prior to members of the PAC or public asking you some questions?
Yeah, just a couple of things. First, I'd like to apologize for missing the last meeting. My family was in lockdown, and another member of my family had kind of a crisis. And when I got off the phone from that, I was just discombobulated and completely just forgot. So I apologize, because I realize you guys are, doing a job here, and it was not my intention. I didn't blow you off. So the small piece of property that's marked that, like, I have title, I pay taxes on it, and my understanding is that there was that was for a plan from long ago, and it doesn't really apply anymore, but you guys are going to have legal look at that, and that's fine. I apologize for doing what I did with no permit, but I build elevators. I don't know anything about permits and stuff, and I had sea cans, and we were growing, and COVID messed up my supply chain, and so I put a roof between them. Initially, I just wanted to keep the snow off my trailers and stuff, and then we realized we had all this work came on, and we just wanted a place to store stuff. So I apologize for not going through the proper steps. It never really hit me until it was my birthday. I think that that your guy came down and said, "Hey, you need a permit for this," and I had my framers in there framing the end of it at that time, and it's very hard to get tradesmen now. So I asked the guys, I said, "Did he tell you to stop working now?" And he said no. So I said, okay, well, just finish framing it, and when I get back to work, I'll apply for the permit, which we did pretty directly at that point. But in the meanwhile, I had elevator equipment coming for other jobs, and I just needed someplace to keep it out of the rain and the snow. And I'd already purchased metal siding, so I did it up. I did it up really neat and tidy, and tried to make it look, professional. And it's, to my way of thinking, it's 170 feet off the road. My neighbor who complained can't even see it from her house. So I'm not sure why she's upset about it, but that's sort of neither here nor there. I I wasn't trying to pull a fast one. I was just trying to. We had tons of work, and we were growing exponentially, and I'm just trying to manage in these times. And we only have one little corner, if you look at the drawing, that interferes with that property, and I own it. And both my neighbors on the side like us. They gave us letters of support. We're good neighbors, and I'm not running. There's no work going on in that. Nothing. Like, that's just tools and stuff. And the 4 tech, we have 4 maintenance men that may show up on any given morning. 9 times out of 10, none of them show up because they're just dispatched to work. Staff, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 ladies work full-time out of the office, and I have 2 sort of field supervisors that have desks that sit there and do their jobs by times. Usually, often they're out. The business, and I'm under an NDA, but the business is in the process of being sold. Part of that is that they're going to move out of that location. Ideally, it's the way it's set up right now. Within 12 calendar months, the elevator business will be gone. I'll just be owning the house and the outbuildings, and probably I might stick my boat in there, or my friend's snowmobiles, or who knows. Ideally, eventually I do want to put a multi-unit property on there, but then I will be. I know about the process now. I'll be talking to you guys first. So once again, my apologies for not making the last meeting, and for putting that up without a permit. But they're sea cans. I really didn't think of it as a permanent structure. It was just, it was just out of necessity that I went ahead, and I do apologize for that. We're good neighbors, and we don't. I have trucks come once in a while in there to unload stuff, and they back into my driveway, and trucks back into residences all the time, right? They just back in, and we unload it, and then they drive out. So there's no smoke, there's no noise, there's nothing going on there. We put stuff in there, and we keep it out of the snow. So if anybody has any questions, please ask me. I'm happy to answer. And once again, I do apologize for missing the last meeting, and for not getting the permits ahead of time. I'm an elevator guy. I'm trying to keep a company going, and it just was not even on my radar. So I'm sorry for that.
All right, thank you. Any members of PAC have some questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, Mark here through you.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Mr. McKenzie, am I correct to understand that you're planning to sell the business? And if you sell the business, are you also planning to remove the C-CAM and the garage that's there today? Or if you sell the business, you're planning to keep the infrastructure that you put together in place?
Mark, I would like to keep it, but obviously, if you tell me no, I'll move it. the way the timeline is now, and this, as I say, I'm under an NDA, so I can't really speak to specifics, but the way the timeline is now, the deal is going to close. We're under a letter of intent right now within 90 days. And at that point, the purchaser has got 9 months free rent. And I'm staying on, and I'm running it. Like, I'll answer, I'll answer to you guys. It's not going to be somebody strange coming in and doing weird stuff. It's going to be me there, and I'll do my best to comply with everything that you want. But ideally, like, it doesn't look ugly, and the only way you see that when you're driving down the road is if you turn your head 90 degrees. If you're just driving down the road, you can't even see it. It's way back, and the blue on the buildings, that's my company logo colors. I paid extra to have that to make it look nice, because otherwise it would have just been galvanized. And I understand it's kind of a bright color, violet, just kind of like your vest. It's very, I tried to make it look good, so it's not an eyesore, and that's kind of my intention. And while I hold the property until I find something else to do with it, yeah, it would be nice to have that there, because I have in my house in Hampton, I have an old pontoon boat tarped up sitting in my driveway, and yeah, I'd probably back it in there, and that sort of stuff. But I'm not going to be running any kind of a commercial enterprise. The company, when it sells, I'm going to retain the company. It's going to be a holding company. And my plan when I bought it was, because of the size of the property, the extra 30 feet on the end, was I thought, well, maybe someday I'll put sell it to a dentist and put a dental clinic in there, or put like a 9-unit apartment building, or whatever you guys allow to fit in there. I would do something with it, because we all know that property along that road is not getting less expensive, and I felt it was a good investment. Byron, I bought it from, was a friend of mine, and I just thought, when I bought it, I thought, well, long term, like, that's a good investment, right? Does that answer your question?
Yes, to a certain extent, but I still have concern that if you keep the infrastructure that you put together in place, if you keep it there, and if we agree to let you keep it there, what is going to be used? What are those buildings going to be used for future use? I guess right now I understand that it's only for storage, but if we allow it to happen, and we allow the two CCAN and the dome, I call it the dome, I'm not sure if that's the right term, garage here.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah, to stay there, what is the future use going to be? It's going to become.
Well, I would have to go to you guys for approval for any future use, right? So I would have to go, as I am now, before the town, to change the amount of people I have in there, and the fact that any change from that, other than like my personal use, which ideally, and at the end of the day, if I sell it to develop it or whatever, I'll haul that stuff out, because it can be moved. And that's one of the reasons I never thought to get a permit, because I thought, well, it's not permanent. The only reason I put any concrete in there was because when we put the roof over, we got to think, well, if we're unloading a truck and we have to move heavy stuff, we need a pallet jack, we need a hard surface. So, like, any different use for that, I would have to go to you guys for approval. Mark, because I can't just, I'm well aware now, like, that I can't change the terms of my usage on it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Any other members of PAC have any questions for Mr. McKenzie? Brenda?
Starting with one quick one. I know in all your correspondence, you say no electricity connected to that building, but I walk a lot, and when I come up in the Hampton Road and by that place, one day, people working out in front of it, the doors was open, and the lights were on, a whole string of lights in the building. Where did the power come from for the string of lights?
We ran what's called a tech cable from the panel in the building. Like there's no power, Brenda, going to the main building. The C cans that were there initially, we dug and ran tech cable in there to basically a light switch and a plug in both of them, and they're all off like a 15 amp circuit, so it's lights only. And the main building, we put nothing in there, and that's when I say there's no power going to the main building.
So there is power. Their lights.
Power.
Yes, I saw those.
There's
My other question is, when you were told by town to, cease and desist, you just built faster and faster to get that up. And the speed of it going up after that was just exorbitant. Because I walk a lot, and every time I go by that place, I would see something else going up. Already I knew that they had told you to stop, and it was just go, go, go to get it done. And to me, I'm having a hard time with this. You're saying that that's not a residential area. A residential area is good with churches, schools, playgrounds, but not warehouses. So I don't support what you've tried to do there. So that's up to the rest of PAC, but I will say now, I don't think we should support the amendment to the developers agreement. It's a contract. You didn't read it.
I can appreciate your position, and I would just like to explain my position. And as soon as we found out about it, I started communicating with the town, and we immediately went into the application permit that we did not do at the start. And the reason I did that is because I had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of elevator equipment coming, and winter was coming. And
We lost you, Mr. McKenzie. You're muted. Sorry, sir. Hang on. Go ahead, Mr. McKenzie. Try it now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
We lost you about when you said that you had finished building the building because you had hundreds of thousands of dollars or something similar in equipment.
Thank you, Violet. Coming, and winter was coming. The rain. Like as soon as I got back, I was away when your permit bylaw officer came by, and as I said,
Mr. Chairman, sorry, but I cannot hear anything.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Mr. McKenzie.
My phone all okay. Yeah, I'm coming and going. Oh, I'm not sure.
I don't imagine the weather's helping with the connections of the phones and everything.
I've been green the whole time. Can you hear?
No, we can't hear you, Mr. McKenzie.
I hear you fine, and my mic is showing that I'm good.
We can hear you now.
Once again, the last thing we heard was that there was thousands of dollars in equipment on the way and snow coming and we had to protect the equipment. That's the last of the minutes recorded.
That's, you know, and I did the work myself. I couldn't find anybody. I needed to protect equipment so I could protect the jobs of my guys. And I was in the permit process the whole time I was doing that. I apologized. I thought, well, okay, I can do the permit and then and this will be okay. And I couldn't stop. I was all in, and as I say, it was me out there building that. It was not me hiring somebody. I was doing it myself. I did the concrete. I'm 60 years old. Like, we were just trying to make a safe place to hold our equipment, and it was not. You know, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong because I was filling out the paperwork and the permit and just trying to catch up with what I had failed to do at the start. And I certainly wasn't trying to hurry up to get it done so I could get away with something. That's not the way we operate. We're the most highly respected elevator company on the East Coast. That's why somebody wants to buy us. It was just practicality and like I was working with the town the whole time trying to get my permit set up. Confusion if it should go to PAC or the town and then PAC or the town. It's just been very confusing, and I really don't know how to do all this stuff. And, you know, and once again, I apologize, but I have a responsibility to my employees to make sure that I don't have to tell them, well, you got to go home because you know, that piece got rained on. It's going to be 12 weeks till it gets back. You know, aside from the expense to the company and the viability of the company. So, you know, I do apologize, but it was not a race. It was just me trying to beat the winter. Was all it was. So I understand. I respect. You know, like, you know, that's why you guys are doing what you're doing to make these decisions, and I respect that.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Is there any other questions from PAC to the applicant? No, and I'm being, I just have a quick one myself, Mr. McKenzie. According to the information that we have here, and maybe you can just clarify that.
Okay.
I'm thinking that they visited you on the 24th, whereas the order to comply was issued on October 24th, and I don't think you sent your application in till September 21st. Is that correct, or?
I'm a little confused on the dates because you were talking about October.
No, sorry, August 24th was the day that the order to comply was issued by Mr. Logier, and then your application came in on September 21st. That's almost a month later, and I thought you.
I understand that. I have staff that helps me with this, and you know, we tried to get all the information and do the forms correctly and not just knee-jerk react. Like, you know, it was on our plate, and my project manager had it there among 10 other elevator projects, and we tried very hard to be diligent and timely on that. It was already basically, you know, it was basically done, and we were just trying to fill out the paperwork correctly. I really didn't think it was that big an issue, because we're so far back from the road and we're so far off our neighbors' properties, and our neighbors had no complaints. I didn't really, until I saw the lady's complaint, I really was not cognizant that it was a big issue, to be honest. I'm just not knowledgeable on how this stuff works. I do elevators, and you know, we got that, and I distributed the paperwork to my project manager and one of my secretaries. It's okay. Well, listen, we got to do this, and you know, we had to pull a bunch of stuff together too, right? Like, we had to measure the property and take photographs and you know, do drawings and try to answer everything. And you know, I realized like it wasn't like the next day, but I mean, we certainly, I didn't feel we dawdled at all. I thought we just stayed right on it. And I understand what you're saying, but it was not, you know, there's nothing intentional there. It was just, you know, we have like, I've got 20 employees now. They're all on the road. We're going to do $4 million worth of business this year. And trying to get equipment and supplies. I mean, we have to focus on our contracts to a large degree too, because you know, there's penalty clauses and all this, and we kept it at the top of the pile, and we kept poking away and plugging away at it. And you know, for example, I had to go buy a 200-foot tape measure so we could measure. And then you know, the lady who runs my office is one of my project managers. You know, she had to measure all the buildings and the sides of the property and do a drawing and get it done and try to put together a professional representation for you guys. So we certainly didn't care, and we weren't dragging our feet. And yeah, I didn't stop, but I asked the guys, did he tell you to stop? And he said no. And I just, yeah, okay, well, like I've got to keep the rain out. So anyhow.
All right. Now, is there? I think when Byron was there was someone living in the building. There's no one living there now, is there?
One of my office staff is from Petitcodiac, and she lives upstairs when the weather's bad in the winter. And sometimes, like I have mechanics from out of town that are working in town, and the way the elevator union works is there are no expenses in St. John because it's considered a domicile. So what I do is I have a 2-bedroom furnished, like Value Village furnished with new beds, but the other stuff's all Value Village, and it's just a place for my staff. If I've got a guy from Moncton or Fredericton who's working in St. John, instead of making him go stay in a hotel, I let him. He has one of the rooms, and he can stay up there while he works in St. John. So we're just trying to manage a small business that's really been growing, and the reason it's growing is because we work very hard, and my people are very good at their work, and we're just we're good neighbors. Both our neighbors on either side are very, very happy with us and have no complaints. So you know, it's unfortunate that I found myself in this situation, but we're trying to do our best to comply, and we always do our best to be good neighbors. And even the lady who was complaining about us, if she had a problem, we'd go over and help her too, right? Like it's just an unfortunate situation, and we're just trying to manage it.
Okay, thank you. Is there
Chairman?
any other questions from PAC?
I can't hear you now.
Is there any other questions from members of PAC?
Mr. Chairman, it's Brent.
Yes, go ahead, Brent.
I have a question for Mr. McKenzie. Mr. McKenzie, you made reference that, you know, you weren't aware that permits were required to put up your Quonset hut and your sea cans and modify them, etc. But my question is, you're in the elevator industry, which is that's a very heavy permitted and licensed industry, is it not?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I've admitted right from the start, like I made a mistake, but it's just, to me, this was not buildings. These are not, to me, they're sea cans. They can be hauled out of there. The roof can come off, you know, come off and be stacked. That can be reassembled somewhere else. I was dealing with the immediate problem of keeping my business viable, and it never, you know, crossed my mind that it would be such a big deal. It was so far back from the road, and I've never built, like at my home in Hampton, I've never built or done any additions or anything. I've never been you know, I've never been a developer of properties or anything like that, and I've never been involved in this type of thing before. And to me, it was like, oh, there's a sea can. I brought it in. I need someplace to carry tools. I brought my first sea cannon 5 years ago, and my second sea cannon 3 years ago, and I just slapped them down. I got them way out in the back so nobody would see them, and there'd be no problem. And I just, they're sitting there like I did prepare the ground before, so like any sane person would, and then there was a great deal on that roof, and I thought, well, I'll be able to keep the snow off my trailers. I really like. I understand what you're saying, but it just never crossed my mind. I just had a big blind spot there, and and as soon as it was brought to my attention, as soon as the guy went down, and told the carpenters, I immediately tackled that in my office, and in a very short order, I was in touch with the town and trying to do everything to make it right. And that's all I've done since that point, is try to do everything to make this right. And I we're good neighbors. You can't even you can't see the thing unless you literally turn your head 90 degrees when you're driving by. And the neighbor who complained, I walked over to the sidewalk in front of her house, at the corner of her house, and I looked down, and you can't hardly see a hint of blue there. So I really, I understand I didn't do things in the right process, but that was a mistake. And I own it, and I apologize for it. And I just, I don't know what else I can do. Right now, that's full of elevator equipment that has to go out to jobs, right? Okay. And that's the only reason I closed it in. My initial thing, I was just going to put a roof over it, and never crossed my mind to get a permit for that. Okay. There's Steve can't, like, I mean, it was a big mistake. I'll admit it, but it was not intentional.
Okay, no, thank you.
So,
Brent,
Mr.
any
McKenzie,
further questions, Brent?
Yeah. So just one other question, Mr. McKenzie. You said something about keeping trailers inside. I'm going to call it Quonset hut. So are those work trailers or are those personal trailers?
No, they're trailers to haul tools and equipment to the site.
Okay, so they're enclosed. Yeah, okay, work trailers. That's all I'm asking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brent. Any other members of PAC have any questions for the applicant?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Violet here, the PAC secretary. I just wanted to check my minutes because at the start of the meeting, I put in that there was 4 admin staff plus 2 project managers and 4 maintenance managers, or 4 maintenance crew. But in the paragraph or so back, you said you have 20 employees now.
I'm sorry, Violet.
Can you confirm your staff? Because the first meeting I noted that you said 4 admin staff and 2 project managers in-house and then 4 maintenance crew.
Well,
I just wanted to confirm.
2 project managers in-house, they just come and go. They don't stay there. They have a desk there. And the 4 maintenance men, I actually only have 2 full-time maintenance men. But on Monday mornings, like, the guys come in and we dispatch them and then they're gone. Then they're away at work, right? They're not there. But Monday mornings after the weekend, like, you have to send your crew away. So there's a bunch of cars in there and then they go. I have 1 full-time project manager, a lady from Petitcodiac who stays upstairs sometime. I have a payroll lady, and I've got another accounting young lady we just hired who lives in Quispam. And I have 2 ladies who live in Quispam who work for me and are at the office, and my daughter works in the office. So there are 4 ladies in the office. There are 2 project managers that have desks there that are there on occasion. And I have 2 maintenance men who are basically never there. They come in and get parts, or they come in and they sit at a desk and they organize their day and away they go, right? So
is that 6 plus yourself there, Mr. McKenzie?
And I'm not there every day. I'm usually running around driving tools. So we've outgrown the space and we're moving out, but like there's 1, 2, 3, there are 4 ladies that are there every day. right? The guys come and go. The 2 project managers and 2 maintenance men, I think probably were counted as 4. Like my 2 field supervisors and the 2 maintenance men were counted as 4. Maintenance men are maintenance men. They're on the road doing maintenance. They just use the office space, I guess would be the way to put it. They're not in there every day, right? They they do come by most days, but they don't come in and sit at a desk and work there every day.
Okay. Is that okay, Violet? Did you get that, or?
Well, my math isn't that bad.
No,
It doesn't
no,
add up to
Mike,
20.
no,
So
no.
your
Yeah,
expression
where's
of having
that?
20 staff must have been incorrect because.
Well,
I'm
no,
not
that
counting
I have 20 staff, but they're always on the road. They don't come there. They just go from job to job to job, and we organize the jobs from the office and ship the stuff out to them. Like
Okay.
if we have an elevator job in Fredericton, me and sometimes it's one of the ladies, we'll load the trailer with the stuff and we'll take it up to the job site and we'll meet the crew there and they'll unload it and they'll go to work. Some of my guys have never been to the office. Like, they come in when they signed their startup kit and they got their safety information and they got their, did their payroll and get that all set up. And then I haven't seen them since at the office. So we generate employment for 20 people, but we don't have 20 people there. We have 4 ladies who are there every day. And myself, I usually go in the morning and then I'm gone. I have 1 field supervisor who at one point was there a lot, but now he's not so much because we've got things flowing better. And 1 who has a desk there, and when he needs to sit down and do admin stuff, he comes in, sits at his desk for 3 or 4 hours, and we might not see him for another week. So there's not a ton of people working out of there, but there are a ton of people employed out of there, I guess.
So, Mr. McKenzie, would it be best to say you employ 20 people and basically there's 6 to 8 people that work out of that facility at any given time?
Yeah, at the max, because there's 8 there. We're all falling all over each other, right? Where it's really the ones who are there every day, Monday to Friday, 8 to 5, more or less, because I have relaxed work rules, and if somebody can't come, they can't come, or the weather's bad, or they have a problem, I said, just go home. Don't worry about it. So I have 1, 2, 3. I have 4 ladies who have a full-time role at that office, and myself, I go in every morning, and then I'm gone because I don't like hanging around the office, to be honest with you. I'm keeping my guys going, dropping tools and parts and stuff, and so there's really 4, and there's desks for, some of my top staff who help organize the other guys. But again, they're always on the road, right? They're always out. So it's not a large amount of people.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions for the applicant? None being, is there anyone online willing to speak for or against this item? Is there anyone online willing to speak for or against this item? Third and final time, is there anyone online willing to speak for or against this item? None being, would Jennifer or Dwight like to add any comments before we put the motion forward? Okay.
The only thing I would like to add, Mr. Chair, is there was a lot of discussion about the buffer zone. That was my biggest concern. Was for PAC to decide if the buffer was, the encroachment was permitted in the buffer. That's, to me, was the bigger question. But I think there was a lot of detail sussed out in our conversation with Mr. McKenzie.
Yeah, so Jennifer, for that buffer, you're waiting for some legal clarifications on that. Is that correct? Is that what I understood, or
well,
no?
That's concerning the reserve lane. We're waiting to hear back from legal to see how we would, first of all, to see if it still rests on the property, and if it is still on the property, how we will go about taking it off.
Okay, so the buffer, is that to the south of the property we're talking, or the buffer up back?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair. It is to the south. It's the smaller lot of the
Yeah.
2 lots that make the entire site.
Yeah, I can see that right there, that they're showing right there in the arrow.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So the items before us there's 2 items, I believe, was a section 35, and then the actual review of the request. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. We're looking for comments to council. They've requested comments, and then we're looking for the variance to the height and the variance to allow the encroachment into the buffer.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr.
With that
Chairman,
being,
Mark,
yeah, go ahead.
if I may.
Yeah, proceed, Mark.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, through you, question for Dwight and or Jennifer here. If Mr. McKenzie is planning to sell the business, is there a need to for a rezoning? Assuming he sells the business and he's successful, and I'm very happy to hear that the business is doing very, very well. Is there a need for rezoning? Because if he sells the business, more than likely, we would like to see the C-can removed as well as the garage on the property. So I just wonder if there is a need to rezone, or can we do something different to give a chance to Mr. McKenzie to sell the business and then proceed with something different?
I can speak to some of that, and if Dwight, if you'd like to jump in to add anything, feel free. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Goslin. I have an audience in my kitchen, so I'm having a bit of trouble focusing. Sorry. I completely lost my train of thought, and I do apologize. Mr. Gotham, would you mind re-asking me that question?
Yes, no problem. If Mr. McKenzie is planning to sell the business, as he stated earlier, I think, the wish would be to have those C-can and the building removed eventually. So is there a need to have the property rezoned? If he's selling the business, why do we rezone the property today for the existing use? It may not be there tomorrow.
Okay, I've got the answer to your question now, Mr. Goslin. Through you, Mr. Chair. The property is currently zoned central commercial, so it actually does have the business zoning that is required, neighborhood commercial, sorry. There would be this isn't a rezoning application. The reason that we're before you is because the original development agreement was a result of a rezoning, and because of that, any future amendments to any agreement or any other development on that lot, we always have to go back to the original development agreement. So that's why we're here before you. It's not for a rezoning. The agreement is to be amended under the Section 59, which is spurred on by a rezoning, but it happened many, many years ago. I believe it was in 2008.
Through you, Mr.
And I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, through you again. So is there a need for an amendment then? If the business is being sold, and is there a need for an amendment, or we just give it temporary use? I'm just giving some opportunities here, I guess, or options. If the business give it temporary use, and when the business is sold, that Mr. McKenzie remove the C-can and the building structure at the back.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can.
Yeah, go ahead, Dwight.
So the property is, as Jennifer had alluded to, the property is already zoned neighborhood commercial. So in terms of a temporary use is provided in the Community Planning Act in those occasions where somebody's requesting a use that's not currently permitted in a zone. PAC has the authority to provide a temporary use to permit that land use for that particular property for up to a period of 1 year. Within that 1 year period, the property owner has to make an application to council to commence a rezoning process to bring the property into compliance with the proper zoning for the land use that was granted a temporary use by the Planning Advisory Committee. In this particular case, the zoning's neighborhood commercial, which was established prior to Mr. McKenzie and the elevator company taking over the property. So he acquired the property. There was an amendment to the original agreement to allow for the elevator company to operate on the property, subject to specific terms and conditions, to an amendment to the original development agreement. That development agreement limited the use to within the existing building. Because there's an accessory building, there's an accessory structure built, and some of that operation, in this case storage and those types of things, was outside of the actual main building, and there was an increase in the number of staff that was originally identified in the agreement. That's the reason why it's back before council to make an amendment to the elevator, Ascension Elevators agreement with the town. As Jennifer alluded to, anytime there's a development agreement associated with rezoning, because it's a public process, you have to go through a public process to make amendments. What we've heard through this conversation is there's potential for the property to be changing ownership. There's potential for the actual business to relocate. So what I'm hearing from Mr. Gosselin is there seems to be some sort of time frame. So because there's an agreement that's existing and you have an opportunity to make amendments to that agreement can be structured as any agreement between two parties or a number of parties that provide conditions. And those conditions can be that for example, that the accessory buildings / CCANs that have been constructed are limited to the use of Ascension Elevators, and at such time as that company is no longer in operation and it ceases to use the property as identified in the agreement, the CCANs have to be removed. You have to remember that developer agreements run with the property. So when the property gets sold, the purchaser actually acquires the agreements and the restrictions under which that operates. So if there isn't a timeline, that person can essentially take over the property and use those CCANs or those accessory structures to the benefit of the new use, if there aren't terms and conditions within agreement that limit that. So it's not so much as it's saying, okay, let's now look at it as a temporary use. It's looking at it and what PAC is, or what council is asking in accordance with the Community Planning Act is, first, is the Planning Advisory Committee, are they supportive of the request? And if they're supporting it, what terms and conditions or what comments would you like to relay to council to take into consideration as they make a final decision in terms of amending the agreement? So for example, if Mr. Gosselin is saying, okay, let's put some sort of time restrictions on when these CCANs can remain, then that it could be a comment that goes back to council to take into consideration.
Could I comment?
Not right now, Mr. McKenzie. We're just in debate first, so.
Okay,
Thank
sure.
you.
So it's you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if that answered Mr. Gosselin's question or set up some sort of context in terms of what is required to go back to council. In terms of the encroachment, the way that can be looked at is there still sufficient buffer? So if there was originally 10 meters and it's all of a sudden now 7, and let's say there's a minimum buffer requirement, if that's exceeded, then that encroachment it can be sort of looked at and say, okay, yeah, it's encroaching, however, the impacts are negligible. Or if you haven't received specific objection from the property owner that's abutting that buffer, if they're not even aware of it and they don't have an issue with, that kind of indicates the impacts that that encroachment is having on the buffer. So all those things would be taken into consideration by PAC in terms of, is the encroachment having a negative impact on the abutting property and impacting their quality of life as well, right? So those things would be something that PAC would take into consideration.
Thank you, Dwight. Mark, does that answer your question?
Yes, partly. The reason I'm asking that question is because in the recommendation, we say that the accessory building is to be used as a storage facility only, and on and on. And the accessory building structure is not to be used for dwelling, which is being used today, which is not, it should not be. But also we say number 2, that the accessory structure to be finished with either an epoxy paint or a cladding recognized. So that means if we put that condition in, and Mr. McKenzie go forward and does that, that means basically we're allowing a permanent structure going forward, including the 2 CCAN and the garage at the back, basically, because we wouldn't be able to, once Mr. McKenzie spend money and do these things, if he agrees to do that, then it becomes a permanent structure. And I'm concerned with the word permanent structure and that location. That's my point.
Yeah, we have a right to change that, Mark. We can amend some of those comments, the recommendations, and change them or word them accordingly back to council through from the Planning Advisory Committee. We have a right to, make some suggestions back to council that will satisfy the needs of PAC.
Thank you.
Is that correct, Dwight?
So,
Through this, through you, Mr. Chair, in terms of staff report contains recommendations. However, the authority is totally with PAC, and that is part of the reason why we have the motions put forward and seconded to have an opportunity to debate, and motions can be amended accordingly.
Thank you.
so
Brent, you're up.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. McKenzie, who owns the property? Is it Extension Elevators that owns the property, or is it your holding company that owns the property?
It's right now it's Ascension Elevating Devices, but one of the terms of the agreement of the sale is that I retain that, and they have 9 months rent-free use to continue the business operations until they find another location. And they're going to jump right on that. But I mean, it's right now I'm in the process of selling my business, protecting my staff, and
Right. Okay. No, I understand all that.
okay.
So at the end of the 9 months, or let's say they move out in 6 months from now.
Yeah.
Are they buying Ascension Properties name, or are they buying your company?
It's an asset sale.
Okay.
And the property is not included in the sale. I retain the property. I rename Ascension Elevating Devices to something holding company, and then for tax purposes, and then I own it 100%. And it really my goal is to develop that, but go through the proper processes first. And
all right.
That will sit there, basically empty, unless somebody with a barber shop or something wants to rent it and you guys say it's okay, right? It's an investment that my company's going to hold, and truthfully, I would like to keep those buildings there for my own personal use, but I will not be generating any revenue from those at all. There'll be, as I say, like I have a place, my home is in Hampton. I don't have a shed on my property the way it's laid out. I don't have any place to keep my stuff. I'll be just tucking my stuff inside, out of sight, and if you guys want me to haul it out of there, I'll dismantle it and I'll put it in storage. I'll buy another piece of land somewhere and set it up there. I mean, that would be an inconvenience, but I understand I've made some mistakes along the way, and I do want to go along to get along with you guys. Your office staff, the town staff have been really excellent. I have no complaints. They've been trying to help me navigate this, and I've been doing the best I can. That's all I can say.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Brent.
Mr. Chairman, through you, question to Dwayne. So when Ascension Elevators basically sells the property to Mr. McKenzie's holding company, then the development agreement that's in place now is null and void, correct?
Oh, I never even considered that.
That was for Dwight, wasn't it?
Yeah, I asked Dwight. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So it would be how it's worded in the agreement. So if it's worded in the development agreement that if he sells, if the property is sold, if the company is sold and they relocate, then it can be on the agreement that that the relocating of that particular business from the property basically eliminates that use of that property, and any subsequent development would require approval of council, prior approval of town.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. McKenzie from members of PAC or to Planning Committee? None being, would a member of PAC like to put a motion for or against with terms and conditions? Brenda?
A motion or a question, Mr. Chair. Do we have to make a motion, or are we just going to supply a list of things for council? Or do we have to come up and say, okay, we support this amendment or don't support this amendment?
Yeah,
To
so
me, that's the question I have.
I don't think it's a motion. It's really comments back to, do we approve that the section 35 gets amended, and that do we approve the variances though? Right? The encroachment and the height. Is that correct, Dwight? So the first one would be
through you, Mr. Chair, the Community Planning Act, it's the council is to request the written views or comments of the Planning Advisory Committee.
Yeah.
Planning Advisory Committee will look at the request, determine if they support the amendment and consider it reasonable for the land use. If PAC feels that it's not, their comments back would be they don't support or they wouldn't support the amendment for the following reasons.
Yeah, we need some reasons either way. So.
Yeah, so if you're having comments, then some of the comments could be, as previously discussed, if there's a time limit put on how long the accessory buildings can remain on the property and those types of things. And there was, I believe, two variances that would have to be approved by the Planning Advisory Committee if they support the amendment.
Then the item 2 would be the support.
Ultimately, it's a decision of council. It's council's decision to amend the agreement because the agreement is with the town through council.
Yeah.
So if PAC doesn't support the proposed amendment, then it requires a unanimous vote of council. Versus if PAC is in support of it, then it's a majority vote, I believe.
Okay. So what we're looking for from PAC members is written comments in support or against to request the amendment of the development agreement with terms and conditions.
just before you get to that, through Mr. Chair, so it would still be a motion. So a PAC member would have to put forward a motion that would be seconded. That motion would list if the motion would be that PAC support the amendment and offering the following conditions or comments, then that motion would be voted on by the PAC member.
Correct.
Still a motion.
Yeah.
Still a motion.
Okay, thank you. Brenda?
Mr. Chair, I'll try to, I would make a motion that PAC does not support the amendment to the developers agreement, and that a time frame is put on the development for it has to be torn down, that structure. And I think like 9 months, that structure should be gone, and that the development agreement doesn't be amended. That would be my motion.
Brenda, so your motion was that PAC does not support the to amend the developers agreement, and that the structure must be removed after 9 months. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Because okay, due to the sale. 9 months. Okay. Can we have a seconder on that? No seconders? I believe that motion gets defeated unless another member of PAC wants to put a motion for or against with terms and conditions. Is that correct, Dwight? That motion got defeated or Violet, because there was no vote, no seconder? Okay, that motion's defeated. Would another member of PAC like to put a motion for or against with terms and conditions? We had a lot of discussion around that, so I think there's some language that we can put together that makes sense for all parties. So a member of PAC put a motion for or against? Is there any other questions from PAC you'd like to have answered before they put a motion for or against? So in saying that, Dwight, we have 30 days from last Tuesday to put our written comments in place and share them with the applicant?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the memo that I received from the clerk stated that if response was not given to council from the PAC within 30 days, council would assume that PAC is in support.
If we don't comment, they're assuming we're in support? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But we have 30 days from last Tuesday to respond, but I can't hear. Darren, you speaking? No? So in saying that, if we don't put something forward tonight, we have 30 days from last Tuesday to put something in writing and share that with Mr. McKenzie. Is that correct or no? Council? Mr. McKenzie needs a copy to see what we're doing though.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
Okay, go ahead, Brent.
Mr. Chairman, the motion I put forward is that PAC, in reference to the town of Quispamsis Council's request, is that PAC recommend that the development agreement be amended with Ascension Elevation Services. The amendment is valid for 12 months due to the pending sale that Mr. McKenzie has. At the end of the 12 months, the development, once the company is sold, the development agreement is null and void, and Mr. McKenzie can either come forward to his new company for a new development agreement, or he has the option to remove the two CCANs and the Quonset hut off the property and not require a development agreement at that time.
Excellent.
Can we have a seconder on that?
I'll second that, Darren. It's Kendall.
That's Kendall. Is there any debate on that motion?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, can I just get the last little bit of that? Once the company has sold, the agreement is null and void, at which time the company owner, I assume then you're talking about directly with Mr. McKenzie, may address council for any amendments?
No, so should be valid basically when Mr. McKenzie's holding company takes over the property.
Okay.
He can approach council again for a new development agreement through that company, or remove the two CCANs and Quonset hut off the property, and then he wouldn't have to go through the development agreement process.
Excellent.
Did you get that, Violet?
I believe so. Basically, once the company is sold, the agreement is null and void. Mr. McKenzie then has to address the council for the new holding company, and the CCANs must be removed from the property.
No. The new holding company has to apply. The new holding company, or the holding company, however you want to word it,
okay,
has to apply for a new development agreement on the property. If Mr. McKenzie doesn't want to go through that process, then the CCANs in the Quonset hut have to be removed.
Can I speak?
Just hang on a second, Mr. McKenzie.
Okay.
Violet, did you get that?
Yes, I believe I did.
Hang on. Brenda, you had a...
Mostly a question. If Mr. McKenzie decides not to sell his business, does he just continue at that site forever?
For 1 year.
Because that says...
For 1 year, max.
Whatever, I don't support that.
Okay. That's correct, right, Dwight? That's what, and Violet. So if Mr. McKenzie doesn't sell the business, the buildings can only maintain there for 1 year? Is that what we're saying?
I have on there the condition that the amendment is valid for 12 months.
Yeah, okay.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the variances were not addressed for the buildings.
So, Brent, with your amendment, are we in approval of the variances?
Do the variances have to be a separate motion, or can they go through this motion, Dwight?
I believe they're part of the same process that would go back to council because we're approving the amendment. If we weren't approving it, then it's null and void anyway. But now that we're approving it, the variances have to be part of that.
So I would say the variances as outlined in the staff report be approved or moved forward, or however you want to word it, but that's the gist of it anyways.
Excuse me, through you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
The conditions of the approval of the variance with regards to stormwater management and those other ones, are they also part of the approval?
Yes.
Okay. And just then the change would be basically to number 7 with the amendment agreement. Those words would be changed to what the motion was just read for. Correct? Mr. President?
Yeah, number 7 would be what Brent had asked, that the applicant enters into amended agreement with the town that and the buildings, once it's sold, or for a maximum of 1 year, and if it's sold thereafter, he can come back for an approval or a re-amendment under his new company, or remove the 2 sea cans in the building from the property, then he doesn't have to come back. That would be item 7, I believe.
Yep. Thank you.
Kendall, are you okay with that? Second it?
I'm okay with it.
Okay, any other debate?
Mr. Chairman, Mark here.
Yes, Mark.
If in the event that Mr. McKenzie sells a business and the buildings are being removed, we should put a timeline on how long the building can stay on the property after the business is sold.
We said 1 year. I think that's what Brent said, didn't you, Brent?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
That's 1 year, Mark?
The building to be removed 1 year following
Yes,
the
so,
okay.
Yeah, because in Mr. McKenzie's agreement, NDA he signed with his client, we're giving him a benefit of the doubt. Part of his agreement was that he's going to allow the owner to be the new owner to be there for 9 months. Brent said 12 months. So there's 3 extra months that at that time, he has to come back for a rezoning or remove the structures from his property.
So basically, by this time next year, this should be all addressed one way or the other.
Correct. Is that okay, Mark?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other debate? Do we want to repeat that motion, or is everyone okay to vote?
Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. McKenzie had a question or concern.
Okay, go Mr. McKenzie before we vote.
No, that's 100% by me, and I really apologize for just leaving this hot mess in your laps. It was really not my intention, and I'm very happy if I can have 12 months from today. Supposedly the business sale will be closed in 90 days, and they've got 9 months free rent. That fulfills my obligations, and I'm very happy to, at that point, either remove them or apply for amendment and to allow me to keep them for my personal use, or I may apply for an amendment to rezone so I can put a bigger whatever. But if you give me a year, that just lets me keep operating. And thank you very much. And I'm really sorry for screwing up. Like, it just was not my intention.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Can we vote on that motion? Is everyone okay to vote on that with the way Mr. Preston added, and we added those comments? I don't have it in front of me to read, but the additional change is what we talked about.
Aye, Mark.
Motion carried by a vote of 4-1. With that, Mr. McKenzie, you'll have a letter in the mail no, you won't. It's going to go to council, sorry, a letter to council, and council will make that decision on that amendment. But best of luck, and please work with the town.
I will.
And share that with all your friends to make sure they come for a permit. They don't get in there.
I will. Thank you. I know I left you with a hot mess, and I had no appreciation for the work you guys do until I sat through this meeting. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Violet.
We'll go back to item 7C, 184 Hampton Road. Is the applicant online? No?
No, sorry, we've had several emails back and forth. He offered a telephone number for us to call in, but we are not set up for that. I communicated back that the phone number he can use calls into this virtual system. and he hasn't called back, so don't
Okay.
imagine he's available this evening.
Can we have a motion to move that to a later date?
So move, Mark.
Have a seconder on that?
I'll second that, Darren.
Thank you. Can we have a vote on that, please? We should
Aye,
also
Mark.
we should all make sure they're not doing work there, I guess. Same time.
Aye, Kendall.
Is that voting button up?
No, sorry, there's not a motion up. It would take me a minute or two to.
Okay, we're just gonna amend, we all agree to amend it then, move it to the next meeting?
Aye, Brent.
Brenda says aye. Okay, Darren?
Mark.
Perfect, that motion, so that's a move to the next meeting. We'll move on to item A, item 8. Items, information items and discussion. Can I have a motion to receive and file, please?
So move, Mark.
Seconder on that? Can we have a second?
Darren, I'll second that.
Thank you, Darren. There's no voting on that, so motion carried. We'll move to item 9. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Can I have a seconder on that? Seconder? To adjourn? Brenda?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion carried. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for attending the meeting, and everyone stay safe out there and take care. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.